Hello, thank you for joining me again on another episode of Reinforce the Horse. As you can tell, today I am flying solo again. My co-host Alyssa, she is in her junior year of high school and trying to finish up the school year. Congratulations, Alyssa, you've done fantastic this year. And so she is just really busy, and it's been difficult for us to get new guests scheduled for the show. It just seems like calendars and scheduling don't quite line up most times. So I figured I'd give you a little bit more or something new to listen to. And uh, part of that, or a lot of that, stems from this sort of newfound art that I've stumbled on, and that's of poetry. And I haven't been a poet or writing poetry really at all in my life. I could remember writing a handful of poems, which really were more tilted toward me trying to write music back in high school. And then, just the typical high school English course assignments and stuff like that. So I might have had like a fraction of a small notebook in various poetry and short story writing. I've always been a strong writer, but to say I have written poems would be a vast, vast overstatement. And so, but in the past week or so, I wrote, I think it was like 19 poems in 7 days. And to me, that is quite excessive. It actually like points to there being something else going on. I had listened to Warwick Schiller's Journey On podcast. I'm a raving fan of his podcast, of course, and he had a guest named Shalon Harkin on his show, who coincidentally, if you will, is a poet and a spiritual poet at that. And during her interview, I felt something unlock inside of me, for lack of better ways to express it. Her story resonated with me, and literally the hairs were standing up on the back of my neck as I listened to her. Well, the day after listening to her show on Journey On, I was working with our relatively new gray Mustang mare. Her name is Cincy, and it's short for Cincy Mia. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Her prior owner, or person rather, had named her that, and as I understand it, it means in Spanish, it translates to without seed. And so for her, there was some significance to that name, and we just decided to keep it. And so she had called her Cincy for short, and we decided that it just kind of fits her, and we would keep her name that way. And so I was working with Cincy on haltering, and at the time she was in a pen, a rather small pen at that. She was quarantined because she came from New Mexico here to Arizona, and our veterinarian recommended keeping them quarantined for some time. And then also, we wanted to get her a chance to become acclimated to us, and perhaps even comfortable haltering and such. So I was working with her on the halter, and we got the halter on, and she seemed really proud of herself. And then she wound up spooking over something. And after that experience, and in fact, as she spooked, I hopped out of her pen and stood on the outside of the fence. And instead of, continuing calling her name or asking her to calm down or even freaking out myself, I went into a short meditation and actually even uh, performed a series of Aum chanting. And as I did that, I got like three or four times into it. She stopped in her tracks and started to calm herself. And we spent the next few hours just being together. Uh, it was shortly after she calmed down that I hopped back in her pen and I just stood next to her. I didn't try to touch her, I didn't try to communicate with her or do anything. I just stood there and breathed. And it took us a few hours. And right after that time, I wound up essentially, for lack of better ways to express it, she channeled this poem to me. I believe that she was the author of the poem. And if you haven't heard that, you can go back to the previous recording that I put up here on the podcast. It's called Gray Wild. And it was, to me, it was an amazing writing. While I pride myself at kind of being a pretty decent writer, I'm not used to being able to put something like that together. And so I feel that there was a lot more going on with our connection spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, even, and physiologically. There was just so much going on. It's like a portal of sorts just sort of open, illuminated, and we both were in the same space for a moment, and it was really really a fascinating thing. So I've been writing a lot of poems lately, and I don't really know the reasoning or why, but there's a common theme to them, and it has to do with my own journey in some degree, and it also has a lot to do with the horses and just spirituality in general. And this one came to mind, the one that I'm going to share with you. It was a couple days ago, so it was on April 18th, 2023, at 10 o'clock in the morning or so. And this one has to do with my focus on really not riding horses and just being willing to be with them and be a good friend and a relationship with them before I ask them for their permission to ride. And it's a short poem, but I think it's really powerful, and I hope you enjoy it. I don't have a title for this one, but I'll just go ahead and share it with you. My own gains set aside, I gracefully dismount instead of ride. Communication, not control. Building relationship, a sense of awe. A sea of grass and endless buffet. Discipline and focus it takes. Acknowledging we are one, not just similar, but every time connected. Two beings agreeing to share information, speaking different languages. Thoughts and emotions converge. Two hearts merge as one. So that poem to me is just, it's kind of the epitome of showing where perhaps, kind of the backdrop of that is where I came from in my pursuit of being with horses and where I am now. In that first line, my own gain set aside. So the the first time I mounted a horse, it was really just all for me, all about me and like what I wanted to do and the fun and so I gracefully dismount instead of ride, and showing that grace and that love and compassion for another being, and that really trickles down into now every aspect of my life and my existence. And I just I I've been feeling compelled to just share this stuff with the world, and I hope and wish, I guess, that um, it provides you with some sort of uh, I don't know, inspiration or just feeling well and yeah. So thank you for listening today, and if you would like to be on the show as a guest, please reach out to us at podcast@reinforcethehorse.com. We could send you over a direct link to our scheduling tool. You can schedule directly. Of course, there's no cost to be on the show. We don't have an ulterior motive. I mean, there's no like business associated with this or um, trying to do anything other than share our experiences and help motivate and inspire people in their life and in their horsemanship journey. And of course, you've heard me specifically and Alyssa talk about our love for the Journey On podcast. Uh, we we really love that kind of approach to things. However, where we are kind of taking our this show is we we feel like we would love to have a similar type of look and feel, if you will, to that, but instead of focusing on the personal journey, more so focusing on the horse or horses who've helped inspire that personal journey and kind of sprinkling in the personal aspects within each episode. So that's kind of the take we're taking. And so if you've listened to our most recent guests, so Lockie Phillips with Emotional Horsemanship and Dr. Alicia Main, the animal healer, you could kind of see the look and feel that we're going for, and of course that will move and adapt with each guest and episode. But we're not necessarily looking for uber famous or people like that have some sort of huge following or whatever. Um, we believe that we are all fascinating in our own ways, and so even if you think that you've never been on a podcast or you don't have anything to share, but really just if you've had some interaction with horses or a particular horse in your life and you'd like to share that story, we would love the chance to speak with you and to help you share your story. We're pushing toward about a hundred downloads per session. It's, uh, plus or minus. So I'd say on average here is probably in the 60s now. And so the show is growing. We're just now reaching just about 1,000 downloads total. So that's pretty exciting. And while we're not, wrapped up on the statistics, it's pretty exciting and interesting to see kind of the analytics of how many people are listening and such and so forth. So if you'd like to be on the show, just shoot us an email quickly at podcast@reinforcethehorse.com, or you can find us on Facebook and shoot us a message there. If you just search Facebook for Reinforce the Horse, I'm sure you'll be able to find us. And yeah, so thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.